Robots filming people in the bathroom, a family horrified when their security camera tells them a nuclear attack is about to erupt, and casino goers' personal information gets leaked after a smart thermometer in a fish tank gets hacked. These are more smart devices that recorded something they shouldn't have. iRobot is the company behind the Roomba. In 2020, iRobot ran a program to improve AI for its high-end Roomba J7. As part of that program, specially equipped Roombas were placed in participants' homes to collect video and images. These were not regular consumer Roombas. They had extra cameras, were labeled with a bright green sticker reading video recording in progress, and the people involved were paid and informed that their footage would be sent to iRobot. Participants were told to keep sensitive areas like bathrooms off limits for obvious reasons, but despite those precautions, some images still ended up where they shouldn't be. One included a photo of a woman on a toilet. The footage had been sent to Scale AI, a company that hires people around the world to label photos, video, and audio for AI training, and some of these workers shared the images in private Facebook and Discord groups. After MIT Technology Review reported on this, iRobot confirmed the leak and said it was taking actions. Point is, though, data collected for AI can end up in the wrong hands, so be mindful of what areas your smart devices can see and don't assume that they automatically protect your privacy. A family in Orinda, California thought they were about to live through a nuclear attack, and it started with their own security camera. In 2019, a Nest camera sitting on top of their TV suddenly began speaking and announced that 3 North Korean missiles were headed for Chicago, Los Angeles, and Ohio. Laura Lyons said the warning claimed the US had already struck back and that people had 3 hours to evacuate. It sounded completely legit, she said, and it was loud and got our attention right off the bat. It was 5 minutes of sheer terror and another 30 minutes trying to figure out what was going on. Her son was so frightened that he crawled under the rug. What made it worse was that the family didn't even know the camera had a speaker, let alone that someone else could hack into it. After calling Nest and emergency services, they learned that the warning was, of course, fake. The camera itself hadn't been hacked at the company level. Instead, someone had logged in using a password the family had reused elsewhere online. Samsung smart TVs have had a weird history with privacy. As far back as 2015, the company included voice-activated features that let you control your TV with commands to change channel or open streaming services, but there have been cases where the TVs recorded more than they should, sometimes picking up private conversations in the room. The TVs would only listen for the wake words, but the voice feature meant your living room was technically listening all the time. A few privacy groups argued that the TVs could send audio back to Samsung's servers for processing, and users weren't clearly informed that this could happen. The Electronic Privacy Information Center, or EPIC, even filed complaints, pointing out that TVs with these voice features might accidentally record things people didn't want recorded. So if you've got a smart TV in your living room, just know it is hearing a lot more than just channel numbers. Fitbits and other devices like them are supposed to track steps and heart rate, but they've also ended up recording stuff you probably didn't plan on sharing with anyone, like where you were and when. Prosecutors have actually used this data in court to challenge suspects' alibis. In 2016, for example, a woman named Connie DeBate in Connecticut was killed. Her husband, Richard DeBate, claimed a masked intruder did it while he was asleep. Problem is, her Fitbit told a very different story. Investigators looked at Connie's Fitbit data and saw she was moving around after the time Richard said the attack happened. Her steps and activity levels didn't line up with his story at all. That data became a key piece of evidence showing that he may have not been telling the truth. Fitbits automatically log activity and heart rate, and in this case, it contradicted a suspect's story. The courts ended up using it to build the case, and Richard was convicted in the end. Tesla cars have cameras everywhere. The front dash, the cabin, there are cameras on the sides. They're meant for safety and the self-driving feature. But in 2020 and 2021, reports came out that some Tesla employees had access to private footage, without the owner's knowledge, of course. Tesla said the employees were supposed to access videos only for security investigations or quality control, but some employees were not following that rule. Apparently, they were actually sharing clips with each other for fun. People bought these cars thinking the cameras were for their own safety, not so that, strangers could sit around watching them pick their nose, or worse. some very private, intimate things can happen in your car, if you're lucky. My friend Kayla was a talking doll that used Bluetooth microphone to listen to and interact with children. You can guess where this is going. In 2017, regulators in Germany stepped in and told parents to destroy this doll, calling it an illegal surveillance device. The issue is that Kayla's microphone was always on and ready to pair with any nearby Bluetooth device, like a smartphone, within about a 50-foot radius. This meant a complete stranger could easily connect their phone to the doll without the owner's knowledge, use it as a remote microphone to listen in on a youngster's conversation, and everything else going on in the house for that matter. The doll, in effect, became a portable bug. The German Federal Network Agency considered the doll's design a breach of the country's surveillance laws. This led to a big investigation by consumer groups in the US and Europe who said the doll violated privacy and consumer protection laws. In October 2017, a tech blogger named Artem Rosokvaski got his hands on an early Google Home Mini review unit, and something happened that wasn't supposed to happen. The device started recording audio from him all day long, without even hearing "Hey Google." When he checked his Google My Activity page, he found thousands of recorded snippets and timestamps that he never asked the device to make. The recordings were being sent to Google's servers as if they were real commands. Normally, the Google Home Mini only records audio after it hears a wake word, but it turned out in these early review units, there was a faulty touch sensor on the top of the device. That panel was meant to let users hold it down and activate the assistant without saying anything, but it misregistered phantom touch events, basically thinking the top was being pressed even when no one touched it. So that triggered the speaker to turn on the microphone, record, and upload audio clips all day. Google rolled out a software update that permanently disabled the touch to activate feature, so the Mini would only start listening after hearing a wake word going forward. In May 2018, a family in Portland, Oregon had a really freaky experience when their Amazon Echo decided to record a private conversation Daniel and her husband were having and send it to someone in her contact list. Without being asked, said contact, who lived in Seattle, called her and told her to unplug her Alexa devices because she was being hacked. He said he'd received an audio file of Danielle and her husband talking about hardwood floors. At first, the couple didn't believe it, but then he played back the recording. Danielle contacted Amazon, who said it was an extremely rare occurrence and that the device probably misinterpreted a word in the background as the wake word Alexa, then misheard the following conversation as a command to send a message to a contact. Bit of a stretch to me. That sounds like a very specific string of mistakes, but hey, could have been much worse. Luckily, the couple's leaked conversation was about hardwood floors and not another type of hardwood. 2019 news broke that Apple contractors were listening to snippets of users' Siri recordings. Apparently, it was for quality control, already bad enough, but add in the fact that a lot of these recordings were captured without the user ever saying "Hey Siri," and this was a real breach of trust. Apple employees would listen to tiny audio clips, often just a few seconds, to check how well Siri understood commands, but some of these clips contained sensitive private information. I mean, these are recordings coming from people's homes. And obviously, users had no idea their private conversations could be listened to by real people. After the story went public, Apple immediately paused the program, stating it would review its policies, which basically means find better ways of hiding it going forward. Eventually, in 2021, Apple announced that users could opt out of having their Siri audio listened in on, which, I'm assuming that would be everyone. The situation led to a class action lawsuit in the US over the collection of voice data without proper consent. Ring cameras are supposed to make your home safer, but in 2019 and 2020, some families found out the hard way. Safety isn't exactly guaranteed. Hackers broke into Ring cameras and in some cases talked to youngsters through the camera's speakers. There are tons of videos online of this happening. It's almost its own subgenre of YouTube content at this point. One Chicago family had a hacker get into their Ring cam and start mocking the youngsters, shouting through the speaker. Amazon said maybe it was weak passwords or reused passwords and suggested two-factor authentication. Okay, but that doesn't change the fact that someone could be creeping on you and your family through your own camera. Kind of defeats the purpose of the whole home security thing, right? In February 2024, thousands of Wyze security camera owners got to peek into other people's homes. The company sent out emails explaining that a service outage had caused a, quote, security event. when cameras were coming back online. Because of a little mix-up in the system, about 13,000 users saw thumbnails from cameras that weren't theirs in the Events tab of the Wyze app. Around 1,500 of those people tapped on the thumbnails and in some cases actually viewed video clips that they weren't supposed to see. Wyze said the problem was caused by a piece of software that temporarily stores data which got overloaded when thousands of cameras tried to reconnect at the same time after the outage. That caused a confusion between device IDs and user IDs, so some camera thumbnails and video links ended up in the wrong accounts. Yikes. Before this glitch, Google's Nest had its own security camera glitch back in 2019. This incident, though, involving a smaller number of users, was arguably more invasive than the Wyze one, too. What happened was a few Nest Cam owners suddenly found they were seeing video feeds from other people's homes inside their own Nest app. Some users were actually able to view live streams from the wrong accounts. The feeds were coming from Nest's own cloud servers, completely bypassing the owner's physical security and passwords. When the story went public, Nest acknowledged the issue and stated it was due to a software update problem involving an older version of the Nest app on specific phones. They claimed only a handful of users were affected and that the issue was quickly patched, but that wouldn't have eased my mind. I mean, every time I was doing something cringy when I think I'm alone, I'd never know if another glitch is gonna happen on my home security cam. That's why I don't have one. In at our number 5 spot, we have help. This next story was posted to Reddit by user Sluzella in response to a thread titled, "What's your creepy Alexa Google Home story?" It goes as follows. Mine is fairly mild, but one night about 2 months ago, I was visiting my parents. My mom and I were sitting in the living room reading. Dad is at work, brother is at school. House is completely silent. All of a sudden we hear our Alexa from the kitchen go, "Help," and the weirdest static gravel voice, full volume. We both, of course, jump and stare at each other. Then Alexa does it again. We go in the kitchen and the Alexa is activated. And that light blue light, which usually faces the direction of whoever is speaking to it, is facing into the dark corner of the kitchen. My mom asks, "Alexa, are you okay?" The Alexa totally shuts off. "Alexa?" She turns back on and in her completely normal voice at a regular volume does her standard "Hi, what can I help you with?" or whatever she says. She hasn't done anything that creepy since, but according to my parents, she will randomly turn on like she's been addressed or just start reading random facts like the weather, even if the house is totally silent and nothing could have triggered her. Totally creeps me out and I refuse to get one for my apartment because of this. Yeah, not a very mild story, I don't think. Next up we have the surprise delivery. Back in 2018, a Redditor posted that they'd received a package. It was an Amazon Echo Dot. The thing is, they never ordered it. It hadn't been delivered to the wrong address either. The Redditor's name was right on the package. Now, maybe it was a gift, but it's odd that the gifter would have sent it directly to the address rather than giving it to them themselves. And there was no note, no reason for said gift to be received. Pretty odd. Now, despite how strange the situation is, it still could have been a surprised gift, but what if there was something a bit more malevolent going on? The Redditor never plugged the thing in, being too paranoid to do so, and maybe that was for the best. Maybe someone was attempting to find a sneaky way to listen in on them. In at number 3, we have another Reddit post about someone who received some unsolicited info from their Alexa device. It goes as follows. So something weird went down with my Alexa today. Just chilling in my living room, me and my friend were planning a hiking trip for the following month. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the blue light flickering on the Echo. You know, the one that's supposed to tell you it's listening. The thing is, I hadn't said a damn word to it. I tried to shake it off, thinking maybe just glitchy, but then out of nowhere it starts responding to the conversation I'm having with my friend, chiming in with info about the best routes and gear. Again, I never asked for its input. It just hijacked our chat. We look at each other, kind of freaked out. Alexa's not listening, it's participating, and not in a helpful way, more like a nosy neighbor kind of way. Alexa, you need to learn some boundaries. Number 2. Case solved. This is another case where Alexa actually proved to be very useful. In Swansea, Wales, an Amazon Alexa device played a pivotal role in aiding law enforcement to bring a suspect to justice. Daniel White took the life of his wife, Angie White. The incident unfolded when Daniel forcibly entered Angie's locked bedroom, and Alexa recorded voice commands during some critical moments. Detectives discovered that at 3:03 a.m., Angie asked Alexa to adjust the volume to level 3. At 3:16 a.m., Daniel's voice was captured instructing Alexa to stop. During these commands, prosecutors noted that Daniel sounded distressed and out of breath. They were able to then construct a timeline of events. The Crown argued that between 3:03 a.m. and 3:16 a.m., Daniel had entered the room, strangled Angie, gone downstairs to retrieve a knife, and then returned to finish the job. These voice recordings obtained from Alexa provided very crucial evidence for the prosecution. Police responding to Daniel's later confession found Angie's lifeless body in the home. And finally, we have the CIA. So when it comes to the question of whether the CIA can get info from Amazon, Alexa seems to go all hush hush. Like, ask them and you'll likely get a vague response or just straight up silence. No clear yes or no. There are a number of videos online of people asking their Alexa devices questions along the lines of, Alexa, do you work for the CIA? Or Alexa, can the CIA retrieve information from you? And Alexa will be like, I don't understand the question. Or in most cases, it'll just shut off completely and not say anything at all. That is pretty strange. You'd at least expect it to say no or give some convoluted answer trying to avoid the question, but instead it just refuses. It's the classic kind of no comment type deal, which is pretty suspect. So if you're curious about Amazon's cozy relationship with the CIA and whether your data is fair game, good luck getting a straight answer. And we're starting off this list at number 10 with the private conversation. This was a pretty alarming news story a few years back. An Oregon family relying on Amazon's Alexa to control their home's heat, lights, and security got a pretty rude awakening one day. A phone call from one of the husband's employees in Seattle left them pretty unsettled. The caller bluntly told them to unplug their Alexa devices because they were clearly being hacked. Family immediately disconnected all their Alexa gadgets, and to their disbelief, the caller revealed he had received audio files of their private conversations. They didn't believe him at first, but then he was like, yeah, you were talking about hardwood floors. And the couple obviously felt completely violated, so they unplugged all their Alexa devices and reached out to Amazon. An Alexa engineer investigated the issue and acknowledged the breach, apologized, yada yada. The engineer admitted they found exactly what the family reported in the device logs, but failed to provide any specific reasons for the breach or confirm whether it was a widespread problem. The Alexa device had never audibly notified the couple before sending the recording, a feature it's supposed to have. Understandably, they went completely off of smart devices like Alexa after that. Next up, we have the Victor Collins case. This is a very fascinating case and one that may actually show a more positive side of this whole Alexa situation. And I emphasize that it may show a positive side because it's still not clear as to whether someone got away with a very serious crime here or if they were actually innocent. So back in 2015 in Arkansas, a man named James Bates invited two friends over to watch football. They'd been drinking, and at some point in the night, they got into Bates's hot tub. One of the friends left, and James Bates went to bed around 1 a.m. When he got up in the morning, he found Victor Collins floating face down in the tub, dead. Bates became the #1 suspect. Prosecutors contacted Amazon to receive audio recordings that Bates's Alexa device may have captured on the night of the incident because it had been playing music that night. Amazon refused initially, but Bates agreed for the information to be shared. Now, there isn't much information out there about what exactly was recorded by Alexa, but it looks like there wasn't any evidence because the Bates charges were dropped and Collins' death was ruled accidental. Now, could Bates be guilty? Possibly. Maybe he deleted whatever was recorded and there was just a lack of further evidence, but there is a good chance that the death really was just an accident. Number 8, Amazon employees. Behind the scenes of the Alexa smart device, there is a global team of Amazon employees and contractors listening in on your conversations. They're not just eavesdropping on you, asking Alexa to play your favorite tunes either. These folks are dissecting sometimes intimate private moments like off-key shower singing and God knows what else. The process goes a bit like this. Your Echo device records bits of your life, and these workers spread across the globe from Boston to Costa Rica get the thrilling job of listening to and transcribing your daily banter, sifting through around 1,000 audio clips during their 9-hour shifts, stumbling upon personal stuff you'd probably never want to see the light of day. But this isn't just unsettling for the customers. It can be pretty off-putting for employees too, who claim they've heard some disturbing things time to time, but they can't really do much about it because this information is technically not permitted to be shared or brought forth to authorities without the customer's go-ahead. Every angle of this situation is just unsettling. Next on the list we have a Reddit post by a since deleted user, but it goes as follows. So something really messed up happened last night and I can't shake this uneasy feeling. I was just chilling in my living room with a buddy, having a regular conversation about movies and stuff, nothing out of the ordinary. But as we were talking, I noticed my Alexa's light flicker, like it does when it's processing a command. But here's the thing, neither of us said anything remotely close to Alexa or any wake word. We just ignored it, thinking it was a glitch or something. A couple days later, I'm scrolling through my phone when I spot an ad for a Blu-ray, one of the same movies we were talking about earlier. Funny coincidence, but nothing crazy. But then I started seeing more of them. Honestly, pretty much every effing movie we talked about, I'm seeing an ad for in some form. I hadn't searched for anything related, and we definitely didn't ask Alexa for suggestions. Now, I'm not one to jump to conclusions, but it's freaking me out. Really seems like Alexa picked up on our convo without any trigger words. Is it secretly recording everything? I unplugged the damn thing and I'm seriously considering tossing it out. Has anyone else experienced something like this? This feels like some next level invasion of privacy, and I'm not sure I want this eavesdropping device in my home anymore. Now, that post reminded me of something that happened to me. I'm just gonna call this story Chips. Now, I don't have Alexa on my phone. I've never had a desire to have Alexa, but I do think that this story really goes to show how much our activity is being monitored, even just with like our smartphones. I was in the chip aisle at the grocery store, trying to decide if I wanted this bag of chips. I won't say the name of the brand, but it's not a type of chip I've ever seen an ad for before. Anyway, I'm kind of squatting by the aisle looking at this bag for a while. I ended up buying it. I get home and I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see an ad come up for this very specific brand, but also the flavor of the chip on my phone, which again, I've never seen before. And it was just when I was at the grocery store, right there in front of it for that long amount of time. I don't know. I just found it a little strange. From a now deleted Reddit user comes a story about a smart doorbell being hacked. The user wrote, "I've got a mid-range smart doorbell hooked up to my Wi-Fi. One night around 11 p.m., I got a motion alert and opened the app. A live feed came up. Already moving, like the camera angle was shifting slightly, left then right, before I touched anything. At first I thought the app was lagging, then the speaker icon lit up for half a second, like someone had tapped it. No sound came through, but I hadn't pressed anything. I checked my account activity and saw a login from a device I didn't recognize. Same country, different city. I changed my password, kicked all sessions, turned on two-factor, and it stopped. The weird part is the company later emailed saying there had been unauthorized access using valid credentials and suggested I reused a password somewhere. Probably true, but it still messed with my head knowing someone could have been watching my front porch in real time. I unplugged it for a week after that." And Reddit user midnightoil_00 writes, "Has anyone ever had their smart bulbs record and replay commands? Think I'm losing my mind. I have those cheap Wi-Fi bulbs in my hallway. Last night around midnight, I got up to get water. As I walked into the hall, The lights didn't just turn on, they started flickering in a weird rhythmic pattern. On for 2 seconds, off for 1, dim to 10%, then full brightness. It looked exactly like what I do when I'm trying to get my toddler to laugh during the day. I checked the app to see if a scene was running, but the app said the bulbs were offline. Then my smart TV in the living room turned on. It didn't show a show, it just stayed on the input selection screen, scrolling through the options rapidly. HDMI 1, HDMI 2, AV, over and over again. I ended up flipping the breaker to the living room because the remote wouldn't respond. My neighbor mentioned this morning that his universal remote had been acting up and bleeding into other apartments because the walls are so thin here. I really hope that's all it is, because watching my house mimic my afternoon routine while I was home alone at midnight was probably the eeriest thing I've ever experienced. Reddit user HonestKnee2482 sent out a little public service announcement regarding smart TVs. They said they were just watching a show one night and poking around the settings when they noticed a section that didn't look familiar. After clicking through it, they realized the TV had been quietly logging everything they watched, the exact times they watched it, and how long they stayed on each show. The TV also had location data tied to it. That sent them down a rabbit hole. After doing some reading, they learned this kind of tracking is standard for a lot of smart TVs. The technology behind it is called Automatic Content Recognition, or ACR, which basically lets the TV identify what's on screen and build a detailed viewing profile that can be sold to advertisers. Once they understood what was happening, they made a few changes. They tracked down the ACR setting and turned it off, even though it was buried deep in the menus. They also disconnected the TV from the internet completely and switched to using a separate streaming service instead, choosing one with tighter privacy controls. Since then, the Reddit user said they've been side-eyeing every other smart device in their home, wondering what else is collecting data. This next story comes from Reddit user AxRuse992834. who had a very unsettling encounter with her baby monitor. She writes, "I bought a cheap baby monitor off an electronics site to use as a pet cam for my cat while I'm at work. It worked fine for a week, but yesterday I noticed something that made my stomach drop. I was at my desk at the office checking the app. The camera angle was different. I always keep it pointed at the cat tree, but it was tilted down toward the floor. I figured the cat bumped it, so I used the app to pan it back up. As soon as I stopped moving it, the camera immediately panned back down. I tried to pan left, and it resisted, pulling back to the right. It felt like I was playing tug-of-war with someone on the other end. I checked the account settings and realized I'd never changed the default admin password. I looked at the logged-in devices list, and there were 2 IP addresses, mine at work and one local IP that I didn't recognize. I rushed home and unplugged the thing. The thought of some random person playing with my camera for who knows how long made me throw the whole thing in the trash. Back in 2019, a pair of security researchers named Noam Rotem and Ran Lokar found one of the biggest smart home data leaks ever. A Chinese company called Orvibo, which runs devices like smart cameras, locks, and full home automation kits, had a massive database left completely open online. No password at all. The database had more than 2 billion logs, including email addresses, usernames, device info, precise locations, passwords, and account reset codes. Basically, millions of smart home users had sensitive personal data sitting completely exposed, with almost nothing stopping it from being stolen. The passwords weren't properly secured. It would be super easy for hackers to crack them, but I mean, forget that. The reset codes were even more dangerous because anyone with access could lock users out of accounts and take over their devices entirely. Orvibo devices were used in homes, hotels, and businesses across multiple countries, and this wasn't just a digital problem. Since the devices include cameras and smart locks, there was a real threat of physical security too. Security experts recommended changing all passwords and disconnecting smart devices until the breach was fixed. Reddit user Sluzella shared a creepy experience with their mom's Alexa and a thread about creepy Alexa stories. They said they were visiting their parents. Sluzella and their mom were sitting quietly in the living room reading, with dad at work and their brother at school. The house was completely silent, but then out of nowhere, Alexa in the kitchen shouts, "Help!" in this distorted, staticky voice at full volume. They both jumped and just stared at each other. Alexa did it a second time, so they went into the kitchen. The device was on, but the usual light that points toward whoever's talking to it was aimed at a dark corner. Slazula's mom asked, "Alexa, "Are you okay?" And the device immediately went silent. When she tried again, Alexa came back to normal, speaking in her usual friendly voice at regular volume. Sluzella said it hasn't done anything that creepy since, but their parents notice it will randomly turn on by itself, reading facts or the weather, even when the house is quiet, and no one could have triggered it. And finally, this Reddit user told a story about their smart device listening in on a very specific conversation. They write, "I've had a smart speaker in my kitchen for years without issues. One afternoon, my partner and I were talking quietly about a job interview she hadn't told anyone about yet. No wake word, no commands, we were just talking while cooking. Later that evening, she opens her phone and sees ads for interview coaching, resume services, and that exact company name. Not the industry, the actual company. I checked the voice history in the app. There was a short audio clip logged at the exact time we were talking. The transcript clearly included part of our conversation. Customer support said it was an accidental activation, but we never heard the usual chime, and the device was across the room." People who bought a Skyworth smart TV started noticing something was feeling off. A user on the Chinese forum V2X dug into the Android-based TV and found an app they didn't recognize running in the background. It was called Gozen Data. As they poked around, it became clear the TV wasn't just checking for updates, it was repeatedly scanning the home Wi-Fi network and logging what it found. The app collected device names, IP addresses, usernames. It also picked up nearby Wi-Fi names and hardware IDs, then sent everything back to servers linked to gzdata.com. That platform handled data from over 1 million smart TVs. Skyworth said the data was meant for advertising, not spying, but after the backlash, they said they stopped using the service and disabled the app. But a journalist named Xing Jiang saw similarities with a government program called Project Zuliang, pointing out the overlap in how the technology works. The project is a government surveillance program that uses internet-connected devices to collect and share data. The journalist said the smart TVs use the same kind of software setup, which means the data they collect could be used for more than just ads. And a legal scholar identified only as Song to the media said this kind of data collection could fit into a bigger push to control information, saying the government is strengthening control of people's data for purposes of ideological control, and that authorities want to decide, quote, what news and information is appropriate. In 2024, Australia's ABC took a popular robot vacuum, a D-Bot X2 made by Ecovacs, which is one of the biggest home robotics brands in the world, found out it had a serious security problem. A guy named Sean Kelly, an owner with a bunch of kids at home, had bought his vacuum thinking it was safe, a handy gadget. Instead, it turned out to be like, quote, having a webcam that can roll around your house and look at your family, he said. The ABC reporter didn't just take Sean's word for it. With help from a cybersecurity researcher, Dennis Gisa, they were able to hack the vacuum without even going inside the building. Using only Bluetooth, they connected to the robot system from outside, and suddenly they could see what its camera saw. Pictures of Sean making coffee in a workplace kitchen started streaming to their laptop. Then they talked to him through the vacuum, saying, "Hello, Sean, I'm watching you." And that caught his attention. He had no idea they were able to do that. He also had no idea when he was being watched. The camera recording warning sound never went on. It only popped up if accessed through the official app, not when someone else was taking control. Ecovacs had been warned about the flaw in December 2023, but hadn't fixed it by the time of the test. An Indian engineer named Harashankar Narayanan bought a cheap iLife A11 robot vacuum. It worked like any other little cleaning machine at first, mapping rooms, cruising around under the couch, but he got curious about what it was doing behind the scenes. He checked what the vacuum was doing on his home internet and found the vacuum was constantly sending information back to company servers overseas, even when it wasn't cleaning. We're talking steady, repeated communication. Harashankar didn't like that, so he blocked the vacuum from talking to those servers while still allowing basic software updates. For 2 days, nothing happened. Then the vacuum suddenly stopped working. It was completely dead. He sent it in for repairs. The company said nothing was wrong and sent it back. The moment it reconnected to his home network, it worked again. As soon as he blocked those servers a second time, the vacuum shut itself down again. Every time it couldn't talk to the cloud, it just stopped working. Harashankar opened the vacuum and and found it was basically a small computer running Linux. Inside the system logs was a command sent remotely at the exact time the vacuum died. So basically, something on the company's end had told it to shut down. Once you removed that control and ran the vacuum without outside connections, it worked normally. But there's an unsettling implication here. It's almost like we don't really own our own technology anymore. A lot of modern devices only work if they stay connected to company servers. Cut it off and the device can stop working altogether. Our gadgets constantly report back to the companies that made them, and those companies can decide to restrict access or disable products technically whenever they want. So if a robot vacuum can be shut down for trying to protect privacy, fair to wonder what that means for other devices. Alright, this next one is like some serious cyberpunk level stuff. Casino goers' personal information got leaked after a smart thermometer in a fish tank was hacked in 2018. At a Wall Street Journal panel, Nicole Egan, CEO of cybersecurity company Darktrace, talked about a casino that had installed a smart thermometer to monitor the water in an aquarium in its lobby. Hackers spotted it, and as Egan explained, the attackers used that to get a foothold in the network. They then found the high roller database and then pulled that back across the network, out the thermostat, and up to the cloud, end quote. That database contained the personal information of some of the casino's biggest spenders. Egan made it clear this was not an isolated incident, saying, quote, "There's a lot of Internet of Things devices, everything from thermostats, refrigeration systems, HVAC systems, to people who bring in their Alexa devices into the office. It expands the attack surface. And most of this isn't covered by traditional defenses." Rochelle Metz was digging through her Alexa history one day when she realized the device wasn't just waking up for commands, it had been quietly recording everyday moments inside her house. It heard me complain to my dad about something work-related, chide my toddler about eating dinner, and talk to my husband. The kinds of normal everyday things you say at home when you think no one else is listening, Rachel said. She ended up writing about it for MIT Technology Review. The piece came out in May of 2018 with the headline, "Yes, Alexa is recording mundane details of your life, and it's creepy as hell." And the article made the rounds online, especially on Reddit. A lot of people weren't shocked at all. If anything, they felt validated. Plenty of commenters said this was exactly why they never trusted smart speakers in the first place. Astro was Amazon's attempt at a home robot. It wasn't meant to clean your floors or serve you tea though. It was a security robot designed to move around your house on 3 wheels using cameras, sensors, and Alexa to watch what was going on. Amazon said it could check if you left the stove on, patrol rooms where you're out, stuff like that. It also used facial recognition to detect people it didn't recognize. Astro launched alongside a bunch of other Alexa-powered devices, most of them for home security. By that point, Amazon had already sold 1.4 million Ring doorbells in 2020 and signed agreements with more than 2,000 police and fire departments. That's where critics started pushing back. According to Dr. Kate Devlin, quote, "Techno-snitching is definitely a thing. We're encouraged to weaponize data by sharing it with law enforcement or by naming and shaming online, with little regard for the consequences." She also warned that bias in AI means there are, quote, "members of our society who face active discrimination from these same systems." Sandra Wachter, a professor at Oxford Internet Institute who studies privacy AI and how technology should be regulated, said a detailed home map was, quote, "ideal for thieves," and questioned who would want a, quote, "camera on wheels staring up at them during their most intimate moments." Her verdict, "I don't think I would feel safer if I had a robot in my house. I'd rather have a dog." Toward the end of 2022, Eufy, a major smart camera brand owned by Anchor, got into some hot water when a security researcher and YouTuber named Paul Moore posted a video saying Eufy cameras were sending photos, videos, and facial recognition data to the cloud. And that was a problem, because Eufy had repeatedly told customers that everything stayed local on the device. Moore claimed that data was being uploaded to Amazon Web Services or AWS servers run by either Anchor or Eufy. Some issues were later patched, but there was no way to confirm whether data that had already been stored in the cloud was actually deleted. And there was something worse. It turned out that live, unencrypted video streams from Eufy cameras could be viewed using VLC Media Player. Asked about it, Anchor senior PR manager Brett White said it wasn't possible, but The Verge, for those who don't know, The Verge is an American technology news website, well, they tested it anyway and proved him wrong, writing, "We've repeatedly watched live footage from 2 of our own Eufy cameras, proving that Anchor has a way to bypass encryption. There was no evidence that anyone had actually hacked the cameras, but the way to get access was surprisingly easy. You just needed the camera's serial number, which can be decoded with free online tools, a timestamp that anyone can make, and a simple 4-digit code that could be guessed in a few tries. Some folks love their smart bulbs. Screw them in, open the app, and suddenly your lights are on your phone. What a group of researchers noticed, though, was that there are some potential dangers of this convenience. Researchers from the University of Catania and the University of London took a close look at TP-Link bulbs in the Tapo app and found a couple major flaws. They picked Tapo bulbs because they were popular and a good example of the kinds of smart devices sitting in millions of homes. The worst issue involved how the bulb authenticated itself. One flaw, rated high severity, made it possible for an attacker nearby to impersonate a bulb during setup. That could lead to stolen Tapo account credentials and even control over other Tapo devices. Another high severity problem came from a hard-coded secret inside the app that could be pulled out by reverse engineering it. So basically, by combining these 2 flaws, an attacker could trick the app into handing over a homeowner's Wi-Fi name and password. But TP-Link apparently fixed the problem after being notified. In 2015, Charlie Miller, a former NSA hacker, and Chris Valasek from IO Active proved they could remotely mess with a car while it was actually being driven. In a controlled test, they targeted a Jeep Cherokee using its built-in Uconnect system. From miles away, they got into the vehicle through the entertainment software. First came harmless stuff. The radio suddenly turned on, dashboard functions started acting weird. This was just to show they were inside. Then they went further. They rewrote code in the entertainment system and used the car's internal network to send commands to the steering, brakes, and engine. There are hundreds of thousands of cars that are vulnerable on the road right now, Miller said. And according to Valasek, anything that connects to the outside world is an attack vector from my point of view. From Reddit user QuietPacket5951 comes the story of the creepy smart TV. A couple years ago, I bought a smart TV, one of those models with a built-in voice assistant. I never used the voice features. I didn't even set them up. I just wanted a cheap TV that streamed Netflix. One night, my partner and I were in the living room talking about a pretty specific medical issue she was dealing with. Not yelling, not talking to the TV certainly, just sitting on the couch. No phones out, no hey Google, nothing like that. Well, about 20 minutes later, an ad popped up on YouTube for a treatment related to exactly what we were talking about. Same wording, same condition, not something either of us had ever searched before. First I brushed it off as a coincidence, but then it happened again a week later. Different topic, same deal. Private conversation, eerily specific ad. I unplugged the TV from Wi-Fi after that.